Bertus, what a treasure to connect with you today, all the way over in the Netherlands. Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's such an
Yeah.
honor to have this conversation. I hardly ever get invited to an interview style thing, but it's so nice to be talking and to have the time to go somewhere with the talk. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you have such a unique way of expressing yourself. So for those who aren't familiar with your work, I just want to kind of preface the Bertus that I've come to know and love through his writing. Everything kind of comes down to one word, and to me, it's freedom. You seem to be navigating your life with the mission statement. That's sort of the horrible expression for it, but the desire to live free of conditioning, free from the known, freedom from boxes, labels, expectations, assumptions. And you're doing this through a very creative life, and not just through your writing. In fact, I think you and I both, at certain points in our writing, we've talked about like words aren't kind of our natural state. I actually feel like words can be very limiting and they don't always convey what I'm trying to say. So here we are expressing ourselves in words through Substack and now in this conversation. I want to hear from you. First of all, what is your preferred method of communicating your deepest soul? And how have you learned to sort of reconcile the limitations of words and actually use it to your advantage through your writing?
Oh yeah, that's right to the heart of it for me. I don't feel freedom is the not the freedom. I didn't choose freedom. I need it to function. I need to be sort of separate and unattached to be even like basically functioning. I think that's why I sort of retreated from and try to stay a certain level separate from the big thing that's going on. Otherwise it would go under. I wouldn't be able to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. And yeah, words. You need them to do anything in this world, but it's definitely not my natural state. And normally when I'm through the week, I work a lot with materials. I work alone mostly. And I hardly speak. I don't need words for that. And also thinking about stuff. And I think we get right to the heart of it. For me, the theme should be today this how do you say that? This division that I feel is in the world between, I think, imagination, imagery, and words. And they're sort of opposed to each other for me. I live in imagery. I live in pre-lingual, pre-word thinking normally.
Mm-hmm.
And I see things how they are or how they're connected to each other, how they're functioning. It's a visual thing. And if I have to explain that in words, I hardly am able to. It takes me a lot of time, mostly what I sort of get in an instant about a situation or some concoction or a machine or a material, and have to explain that to someone who's very wordy, needs words to get it. I get into trouble.
What is that sense of the imagination and the visual aspect of that? Is that also a felt sense? Do you feel that in your body too?
Yeah, because I said imagination, but imagination is always like pictured as very visual, as only visual, as pictures, but it's much more than that. I think imagination is a complete, I don't know, all the senses type of thing going on. It's sensual in that sense. It's but the heavy part is seeing. I think is vision.
Mm-hmm.
But vision is like in a cinema is very much helped with sound and with feel and with texture and with I don't know, if you imagine a cinema that's like full immersion, then you have imagination, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting because like one of the things that I find I have to do when I'm writing to find the words, because I sometimes feel like the words are actually coming from my cells and not from my brain. Or if they are coming from my brain, they don't actually feel true. So and our beloved writer, Chloe Hope, also, who writes Death and Birds, she also has this experience where it's like we almost have to close our eyes and just feel the words bubble up, and it takes a long time. It's like glacial to try to sometimes find the right expression coming. And I almost think that somehow like the cellular pace of our cognition is way slower than this type of cognition, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think but that slowness is so weird because it's also ultra fast, like lightning fast sometimes. If
Mm.
you sort of putting it into words can take like days, or you can sort of endlessly approach it, what you sort of can get in an instant when it's alive for you.
So like when you're working with paints, because I know you're a magnificent you're just an incredible visual creative altogether. But when I've seen some of your paintings, does that kind of come out very quickly?
Yeah, sometimes it does. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I feel that I'm still sort of finding out how it works. Of course, I'm not sure, but for me, it's like writing mode is sort of a form of channeling almost. It's
Mm.
not exactly that, but it feels like I'm going sort of into a state, and then I can speak or write and transform what comes up as feelings, emotions, or I don't know, as images, as visions almost,
Yeah.
and then from that I can translate it into words, and then it's then it makes sense to me. If it's just
Yeah.
the words, then it's not enough.
This is so exciting. Okay, okay, I'm going to go back for a second. On your about page, you very clearly specified this is not to be planned. There is no clear starting point, no end, not even a path or a door yet. You said, I have chosen a means unsuitable, words, sentences, descriptions, in a language not even mine, unqualified at all possible levels. So to most, this would send them running for the hills, right? I mean, most people want to have some level of certainty in what they're going to be creating and also sharing with the world. But instead, it seems like this opportunity to channel, like you just described, this blank and uncertain canvas is really compelling to you. Can you tell me more about that?
I think it's almost a default state for me, and I've of course I've learned through conditioning, through school and through society to be the other form too, but
Mm-hmm.
I'd much rather be in my natural form, in the oh, there's no word. Yeah,
Yeah. Is it
yeah, it's a sort of it's a sort of a flow state, but it's not the
mm,
kind of flow state that people describe as this high up thing that is where everything is perfect. It's flow in the sense of being connected to what you're doing, to what you have in your hands, and what you I don't know, the space and the feel of it, and the right timing of it, and that's where I function at my best, and but it's also very frustrating because you can't take it from there and communicate it to other people. There's so few people that get this, and I think that's why we have a connection. So I sort of
mhm.
feel this connection.
Yeah, the world wants literal, I think. I feel like there is sort of a no man's land for creatives like us that tend to it's this compulsion to be in that creative place and connect with whatever elements there are that are colliding in that moment to connect and to be in a deep listening state. It's almost an ecstatic place to be
Yeah.
in. But then we almost need the rest of the world to then interpret it for us. I found that in some of my film projects, I'll have that long couple year process of creating something, put it out there, and then it will be other people watching it and having really smart insights about it. Where I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I meant. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good point that you're making. This is about the creative part of being in the world. If you want to do new stuff, you just don't know what's ahead. And if you choose security, if you choose a plan, if you choose the image that you want to make, the painting that you want to put on there before you start painting, then it's not creative in that sense. There's sort of a bit of renewal, of course, in every action. You can't repeat the same thing twice ever. But choosing to try something new, to try and find a way forward, is needs to be unplanned, to be not to not know ahead of what is coming beforehand. Yeah.
Is it safe to say that you feel safe in that place of unknown? That
Yeah,
that, or that you
it's
welcome
the
it
other way
and
around for me. I feel unsafe in the language world. I feel it's a false world for me. I feel language is basically lies. In the sense that it's a representation of the thing that I'm really concerned about. It seems that most of the people at the moment don't get that they see language really as the thing itself.
Mm-hmm.
They don't discern between the word for apple and the apple itself.
So why in the world would you start a Substack then and share? You've got a serialized fiction. Just this is so interesting to me that you've embarked on this journey.
Because it's also a great tool. It's wonderful. It's the same thing with a painting. A painting is not the thing, and it's never the end result for me. If a painting is done, I just start the next one. I don't care about the thing that's done. But it's nice to make it. I think it forms me back. Like writing it helps me so much to find what it means and what the value of it is, and why I do the things I do, and but it's not the important bit. It's just a byproduct for me.
Mm-hmm. When you read your words, so for example, in your serialized fiction, and I'm going to just say TKOTNK, because do you actually enunciate that in your head when you say that, or do you say TCOTNK as well?
I sort of started doing that, but I'm
I
still.
want to say like Kutnik.
Yeah, I hate abbreviations. Actually, I people use them so much in language now, like a sentence with 4 or 5 of them. I think you
Yeah.
completely lose me in that. But I also didn't want to sort of give away the title of the picture book that sort of these letters stand for. So that's why I chose that. Um,
I don't even know what they stand for.
no,
Have you?
you haven't arrived there yet. No,
Okay,
it's in the
okay.
meantime in season 2 somewhere. I don't know at the end.
That's
Michelangelo finds out what the letters are about. So.
wow. Okay, this is cool. So
Hmm.
when you read chapters from this book that you've written, do you feel the truth of what you've created, or do you feel a little bit like it's sidestepping from the actual process? Because you said just moments ago that words are lies. So I want to know how you relate to what you've written.
For one thing, this book I've written the first 4 seasons almost 5 years ago now, like
Mm,
4 to 5 years ago, and in the last season I did from a bit more than a year, like 2 years ago almost. Like that's more recent. So it's a bit. I've moved on in the meantime. Yes, and I sometimes read that. Oh, I would have
Yeah.
done it differently now, but I still feel I still like it. It's like playing a record that you recorded like back then, and you think that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it feels, but making music, that's what my emphasis lies, and not the what I recorded back then. But
Mm.
it is part of it, and I like it because it's now being read sort of for the first time. Substack is so great with that, and it's not a lot of readers. But it's a few good readers that really pay attention and like give me feedback, and I learn so much from that, and it's so wonderful that you feel it landing with people, like arriving in them and doing the thing that I hoped it would do, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the readers I found on Substack they're deliberate. They really are there because they want to engage with the content. It's not just a like scrolling thing at all. It's a deep kind of entering into communion with the reader, which is just fabulous. And you have in TCOTNK, it's this beautiful imaginative adventure. Um, to me about living authentically without cultural conditioning, finding one's tribe and aliveness. It reminds me, after college, I lived at some intentional communities in Europe, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of the people that gathered in those places. And you spoke about feeling in your youth incompatible with the world, sort of, and we'll touch on this with the idea of being unfixed too. Um, Tell me a little bit more about that and how the writing of TCOTNK became kind of a way to express some of that for yourself.
Yeah. I have to really force myself not to name the title. TCOTNK. Yes, but it's just one of the stories. It's just one of a long row. I've been writing since my teenage years. I think I don't know. I've got 17 or 18 books sort of stacked away.
Oh,
Some unfinished, but a lot of them finished. Yeah, and a lot of them also like no, not good enough anymore. But they
yeah.
were at the time for me a great tool to. It's a sort of escapism. I think I go into a world of my own, and I try to find out how it works and how it sort of could function and how it's different from the actual world. I mean, because incompatible. I don't know. It's so difficult to word that. Um, I found out in school I'm not suited to be in a classroom and listen to somebody else telling me what to think and what to remember and how
Mm-hmm.
to do stuff. I want to find out on my own, even if it takes like 10 times longer. I rather do that. I'm just not able because I think mainstream schooling is incompatible with me. It's not me that's
Yes,
incompatible
that's
anymore.
such a good way.
I don't feel that anymore. Uh,
Yeah.
so I think a lot of society now is a certain way, and it's a very narrow certain way, and
Mhm.
a lot of people don't fit into the model, and it's we're now outraged by Western schooling and education turning children into Christians, turning them from their own language, old languages, into the language, whatever, probably English, but also Dutch, uh, taking away their cultural habits. And we're now outraged by that. I think in
Yeah.
100 years, we will be outraged by how the education system has functioned until now,
Mhm.
because it's too narrow. It's not enough. I think the imaginary way of thinking, or the imaginal, I think it's that, and then it's called. But that other way of thinking is so important for renewal in society, and it's it's pushed away. It's ignored. It's not taken seriously. It's they try to co-opt it, try to make it into a language form, and it's I think that's one of the big things for me that's wrong with society.
Yeah.
I ran into that from a very early age, like late primary school. It started disagreeing with me, and
You could feel it. You knew that it was disagreeing with you.
yeah, yeah.
How did you survive it? I mean, you obviously were able to retain the innocence and the purity of your own creative expression through all those years. Whereas I think many people out there that are encountering that incompatibility they end up kind of dimming their light.
Yeah.
How did you survive it?
By taking that freedom, I think, by being rebellious as a teenager,
Mm.
like
Yeah.
taking,
What did that look like?
like wow, going into music helps, like playing the drums loud, like
Yeah.
I was a sort of in the beginning stage an aggressive drummer in the sense that I did like heavy metal and hard rock type of music. It didn't agree with me totally, but
Yeah.
I was like a I wanted to be heard, and I didn't have the means. So playing the drums is a good way to be heard.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
Wow. So you actually stayed in school through those years and you just kind of knew that it wasn't for you and bought your time through it.
yeah. I started in Holland. You have this division of higher education, lower education. I started at the higher end of it, but I wasn't interested. And I doubled a class, and then was set back to the lower part of it, the easier part for me, so that I could do like on the side. I didn't have to do much for it, but I hardly. I increasingly didn't go to school. I was a
Mm.
dropout. I didn't go to class, and I just did other things that I wanted to do.
You and all the other brilliant humans on this planet, it's like you guys look at this educational system and go, this is just a waste of my time. I'm thinking about there's an essay that you wrote called The Carpenter and the Talking Tree. And I want to bring that up because, you talk about how the real job of the carpenter is to listen to the wood, um, and allow what you describe as the spheres or her soul voice to interact with you. And I feel like maybe what we're skirting around in this discussion about education is we're not really taught to listen. We're just empty buckets in school, and the teachers are there to fill us up with information. But it sounds like to me, you went out into the world to really listen, and that your work comes from that surrendered place. Am I accurate in saying that?
It you say brilliant, but I don't feel even close to that description. I felt very inadequate and very stupid most of my life, like
Mm,
sub. I didn't believe I was able to go to university. Even I wasn't smart enough for that.
mm,
Now, no, I'm nearing 60. I could have done it easily, no problem. Because now I'm sort of talking to people. I learn to talk. I learn to express myself slowly, more and more, and I find out that not that smart. That's sort of okay. I can handle that.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not brilliant
Oh,
either. I find very brilliant people that are way out there and so incredibly smart. I don't feel like that, but I feel smart enough to open my mouth now to
mm,
say, but this is not okay. I feel it's not okay. I feel so angry inside about this. Like there's
mm,
there's there's a there's so many people silenced and pushed aside or forced into a form that they are not naturally in. And I think that's where a lot of the problems come from that we have as a modern society, because
mhm.
it's just honoring one type of being in the world. And I think we're slowly getting it, but But yeah,
We're starting to with sort of the discussion around neurodivergence and understanding, the spectrum of autism. And I think it's starting, but it does break my heart when I think about like the young Bertus walking through the world feeling not intelligent, because your intelligence is vast. It just didn't fit with what the world was expecting it to be. And I'll read people's essays on Substack and I'm like, I can't even understand half of this. I feel stupid. I feel like my intelligence comes from a much more embodied place than an analytical place. If anyone tried to get me to analyze something, I would, go run for the hills because that's just frightening to me. But I do think that there is, with time, we start to see the way that it does work in the world, the way that your intelligence does invoke and communicate and evoke. So you're feeling that now through your writing and the conversations that you've been having, through the feedback that you're getting, and do you feel that more just in your daily life too, that your intelligence and wisdom is in the right place now, or is being nurtured?
it's moved in the right direction. Let's say that. I'm still having trouble connecting like um, in a nearer sense, like directly to people around me. It's very
Mm-hmm.
very difficult. And the nice thing about Substack is that there's so many people on there. So the more rarer type that I
Mm-hmm.
easily connect with is on there. I've had a lot. How do you say that? I gained a lot of self confidence through a course I did. It was called Surviving the Future, and it's an
Oh,
American school that does that. And it's like, I think it's twice a year that you can do that. It's an 8-week, 9-week course of people coming together, discussing what the state of the world is, like for real, like economics and climate and all kinds of stuff. But it's very confronting. But you get to meet like 40, 50 people that are sort of getting it and feeling the same feelings of unrest and of we have to sort of change the things that we're doing. And that helped me a lot. Writing on that as a forum on there, you're being asked to write like a weekly essay. This was I did it twice, 2 and 3 years ago, and it helped me so much to find confidence in opening my mouth and trying to voice this. And this is what I try like every week, and every week I feel like I sort of haven't yet been able to to say it out loud. What I really want to say.
I feel like I understand you, and maybe that's just because our brains have sort of a little meld. But when I read your essays, there's just sort of almost an exhale of, oh, someone gets it. And I know I'm not the only one. I know you talk about sort of the idea of being unfixed, and um, you said it's a good description of how you long to be in this world. But we live in a world that's always trying to fix us. And I'm putting this in the context of what we're talking about around, like, we think differently and the world wants us to think like it does. Is that how you see the fixing show up in your world?
Yeah, it's a big one. This one, I always get annoyed when people say hunter gatherer
Mhm.
because I think they're two separate people.
Yeah,
There's
true.
hunters and there's gatherers. I'm a gatherer, I think, and you have settlers. Like after the hunter gatherer, you get people who got settled, and I think being unfixed is refusing to settle, like a nomad style. But you don't have to be a gypsy to 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 be that in the world. But I think this being unattached to or having a profession that you do the same thing like your whole life, or but move from thing to thing. You could call it polymath, or you could call it like,
Yeah.
but this wider way of being in the world. That's what I feel is unfixed, and
Hmm.
it's unfixed also in the sense of being unattached, not
Mm-hmm.
fixed to, but also in the sense, in a spiritual sense, I believe that things are as they are, and you can be annoyed about it, how they are, and be angry about it, but they are as they are. It
Yeah.
doesn't say anything about how they could be, how they are changing, or the direction in which the things are changing. But the first thing for me is accepting how they are as they are. That's also being like accepting that you're limited, that you have
Mm.
flaws, that you have handicaps, that your reach is sort of going there and not any further, that you mess up, fuck up stuff, and that you don't
Mm-hmm.
get it right, and but it's okay
Mm.
because that's
That
done.
is
You did. If you knew
so,
beforehand that you would fuck up, you probably wouldn't. So
yeah.
I always say that if you play the piano, you're always as good as at that moment. You can long to be better than you are at the moment, but the only thing you can do as a performer on a piano
Mm.
is being the pianist that you are at that moment. You can never
Yeah.
outperform yourself. You can only
Yeah.
underperform. I think being doubtful about your quality, but
Yeah.
the only thing is be there and do the thing that you do, and that's the maximum that you can do. You can never go above that. You can only go below. So that's what being unfixed, accepting for me is too. You know,
That is such a beautiful description of unfixed. I want to transcribe that and print it out and put it on my wall. It was just exquisite because you touched on all the layers of it. It's the fixing, the unfixing from our identity, or the need to have it be fixed within time so that, we can listen to the tree and hear and interact with the spheres of the world and allow ourselves to be part of that creative process. But it also is that humanity of our brokenness, and to recognize that in a way, I listening to you, it makes me think that the ultimate unfixed is just the present moment, because it's unfixed from the future and it's unfixed from the past.
yeah,
It's just the present. And in that present is, I've never put this together. This is so cool that you just did this. But it really is just that it's the present moment. Um, and the freedom that comes from allowing that place to not be a limitation, because I feel like that's where people come in and go, oh, what do you mean I don't have a defined identity? Or what do you mean I'm broken? That somehow this is a limitation, but I actually think it's the opposite.
there's two things I want to say about this. One thing I just recently heard two physicists talking about the moment, and I always thought about the moment as a point, a thing with no substance. It's like it has no length,
Mm.
but they actually say it isn't true because the actual moment is quite thick. It has a certain width, like going back and forth. There's that they discovered that it's not unsubstantial. It is not
Yeah.
yet history. It is not yet future, but it has a certain I don't know, bandwidth, and I
Yeah.
love that idea because that's what I feel. That's how I really feel it in my body. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. It goes like a bit in front of me in time, whatever
Mm.
time is, and
Yeah.
also there's a sort of a tail, like your right tail, like something like that. And there's playroom in there. There's a certain space in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanna share. Um, I got I have three kids, and they're the oldest two are adults now, two daughters and a son of 13, almost 14. And when the oldest was born, we discovered, like after 2 3 years, that her hearing wasn't okay. So she failed the hearing test, and we slowly discovered it wasn't good at all. We resisted a lot. So evidence that it was okay. So we sort of we're in denial for a long time. But we discovered that they had increasing hearing loss,
Mm.
and first with my oldest daughter, and the next one was like 2 years younger than that, and she had the same. We saw
Wow.
it earlier. She failed the tests, and she was even worse than the oldest one, because she didn't start talking. She sort of, I don't know. She started talking, and then from one day to the next, she stopped. She went silent. And I want to share this with you because I think it's connected to you. She hit her head. She was like, I think 4, 5, something like that, and she hit her head in the playground, and that was the moment that she fell silent, and
Oh.
we sort of felt, oh, she's not hearing anymore. But right connected to that was her being very dizzy. She was on the ground, um, not able to stand up.
Wow.
Um, well, like 2 or 3 days after that fall, she was on the couch and not able to do anything. And I feel it very much connected to your condition that you describe in that. And then only recently, let me do the whole story, because we found out slowly, and with pushing doctors and trying to find out what's happening. And the doctor said it isn't connected. Dizziness and this is separate. It's not. We said, but her hearing loss is going up and down.
Yeah.
A week it's quite okay, and the next week it's really bad. Wasn't possible, they said. And then we started like pushing. We pushed higher up for a second opinion and a third opinion. And in the end, we came to a university hospital where a professor asked us like 2 or 3 questions. He said, I know what it is. So it's an enlarged vestibular conduct, I think. So
Uh-huh.
there's a sort of genetic flaw in there that sort of messes up your hearing slowly.
Wow.
And what I wanted to share about that is, for me, it was a very confronting thing as a musician to find out that your kids probably won't be able to hear music the rest of their life. Like, it was
Mhm.
a big thing for me. And I took me, like, I don't know, I stopped playing for 10 years after that. I couldn't make music. Like, I couldn't enjoy it if I knew, like, what,
Wow.
slowly sort of losing that. It all turned out like wonderful in the end. So don't go into like, well, they got a hearing implant by now, and they got it
Uh-huh.
because they were hearing when they were born, in the first years. Their hearing centers in the brain were very well
Oh, so
developed.
they adapted and they
Yeah, yeah. So they're perfect candidates for a cochlear implant. So they're functioning wonderfully now. But that's their thing. But for me, it was discovering that being handicapped like that, being having no ears, is in no way gave me an incomplete child. They were full
Mhm.
children for me. Like that,
Yeah.
like, and it's always presented that you have less than a full person if you're handicapped, and it's not true. It's For me,
Did
it's
you
the
see the film
important thing
Sound?
about being fixed. Sorry,
Yeah, I'm thinking of the movie The Sound of Noise. Did you see that? It came out.
no.
Oh, Bertus, write it down. You have to see The Sound of Noise because it's exactly about this. And he's a musician. The protagonist, he ends up losing his hearing, and he goes to a center where a lot of individuals are sort of learning to navigate the world through vibration and other ways. And he ends up getting an implant, and you'll see the um, sort of the relationships that he has at that center that he's developed, and the conflicts that develop because he tries to go back to the world of the hearing. And it does a beautiful job not judging one way or the other, but it just portrays this two worlds, two different perfectly whole worlds that are, seemingly incompatible, because it's like, oh, you would want to hear, right, if you could. But in this, they do a wonderful job at portraying that that's not necessarily always the case. So yeah, The
Okay,
Sound of
yeah,
Noise.
that's very why I wanted to share this, because that's how I feel it really taught me like that. and also
Mm-hmm.
for myself, like it's not a flaw that I have. It's a different way of looking at the world, but we all have like these crazy limits on our uh, getting what is going on around us. So that's okay. That's and we see a lot of compensation also. They get different things. They get a different set
Mm-hmm.
of information about the world, and it's very important to have to take that seriously.
Yes, yes. One of the things too that I've also learned along the way living with this neurological dizziness that I live with is, and working with so many other people that have um, chronic conditions or terminal conditions, it in a way it equips us to live in this world with a more responsive heart, if that makes sense. I feel like when we're butting up against control, which I think many of us, when we come into the world, we think, well, sure, we can control everything. And then when we fall to our knees and realize we can't, which is, some people maybe always will go to their deathbeds thinking that they always can control. But those of us that realize we can't, something else cracks open in that place. And I feel like living Unfixed really equips us to serve from that place of that shared humanity, the I don't know, the fragility, the tenderness, the vulnerability. I mean, the innocence. There's an innocence, I think, in Unfixed too.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Fragility is such an important word in this. I think this crazy idea that we're strong and we only have to fight harder to get even stronger. It's not understanding what life is about. I think you really don't get it if you look at it that way, and you only
yeah.
get it if you get hit by the train.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you see like, wow, the strength and the force of life is in a different place than being hard or being resistant against change. Or it's not about holding on. It's not about lengthening it. It's not. It's not that. It can be very short and very significant.
Yep. Yeah. You said, I love this line that you wrote, language, period. I burn it to stay warm. I love that line. Can you tell me what this means to you?
Yeah. Wow. It comes after a quote of a U2 song, like the lines of Bono, that I sort of alter a bit there. And but it's fuel. That's how I feel it. And it's a tool that you can use, and tools you can, to a certain extent, you're allowed to abuse them because that's why they're tools. But abuse is, but I don't know, intensely use them, and burning. If you see it like fuel, you honor the words by burning them, and you say it's okay that I burn them because the new words will grow after this, and
Mm.
there's a sort of a cycle going on, and it takes words off of the throne for me, like being all important and taking this role of being the truth, of being the fact. But the fact is not in the word at all for me. The fact is the
Mm.
thing that is out there where the words are coming from. And wow, it's so important for me to remind myself at least of that.
Yeah.
I think that's what I mean with
It's like the
like
ultimate
a rock
sand painting.
guitarist, like he burns his guitar like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's like the ultimate sand painting where you put all of this energy into something and then the actual warmth, the actual lasting warmth that comes is in the burning of it, the cleaning of the canvas so that you can renew and start again. That's such a beautiful thing for our listeners on Substack to contemplate because language is everything as we're writing. And even myself, I have my memoir and I copy it and I double copy it and I make sure it's saved in multiple places because I'm scared to death that anything is lost, even drafts of it. And eventually though, I think the ultimate, what's the word? The ultimate creative process with this is to let it go and to let it, live in its own way and allow it to dissolve and create a blank canvas for new creations to emerge. Because if we hold on too long, then we're just stuck in that box forever and ever and ever.
Yeah. I love this, the Tibetan monks that sort of built the big mandalas of with sand. They build a cosmology, the whole structure of their system, the I don't know, beliefs, are their beliefs, I don't know. But they built the whole thing, and it's very important, it's very intricate, it's very deep and symbolic, it's a lot of things, put a lot of effort into it, and then they sort of move it to the river and let it like flow away.
Yeah.
So they force themselves to rebuild it over and over again and not hold on to the thing.
Yeah.
I think that's, for me, that's very important, because what I notice in myself in being different, I remember the process. Don't remember the outcome. I don't remember the answer. I don't remember sort of what the words were. I remember the process. So if you ask me to do the same joke again, it
Yeah.
won't work.
Nope.
Same story again, it won't work. I get into trouble. I can do it. Like only improvising, only
Yeah.
writing. For me, that's one of the pieces I wrote. The meaning of life is that the important bit is done improvisational. Like you have to do it in the moment, and you are sort of supported by the memories and by the habits and by the skills and by the. But it's not the other way around, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I celebrate that so much. I feel just a buzzing when you talk that way because yes, the improvisation is where the freedom is. And going back to what we talked about earlier, it's where the safety is. If someone handed me a script and said, memorize all of this, oh, I would be scared or analyze this. And then, that to me is death. But to be in the improvisation feels like, well, all we have to do is really listen because and respond. Listen and respond. Listen and respond. Listen and respond. But this isn't a safe place. So I want to, and if you can believe it or not, we've actually been almost talking for an hour. I just noticed that.
Going fast.
Yeah, I know it goes by fast. But I want to end with, because I think a lot of people don't feel safe there. They don't feel safe in that place of improvisation, the unknown, the blank canvas, uncertainty. What would you offer to those people right now, and how to trust, how to access that trust for that place?
I've tried in many ways to find practical forms for that, and I tried that in my workshops on art. I think art is the best way to. And art is such a horrible word. I hate the word actually, because I don't like art at all, especially not the kind that hangs in museums and stuff. For me, art
Yeah.
is the thing that you do that doesn't have a real function, but it's just for enjoyment, just for the fun of it, and for the beauty of it, But art is, as an activity, as a thing to do. If you're able to do something without planning ahead, and it can be very, 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 very small, like a small sketch, like a doodle, even just a 20-second thing that you do without planning ahead. Just do something without knowing beforehand what you're gonna make. There's the key, I think. And if you start doing that, and it can be anything. I think you discovered it yourself, like in the felting process. Just start
Yes.
making stuff, and you have a vague idea of where it's going, but it's taking you somewhere else while you do it. But if even make that smaller. And I think that's a very important thing to do for everyone. And it can be cooking, it can be with a pen and pencil or a brush or a bit of clay or a bit of wood or whatever. If you start making something and see what comes out, just let it come to you. Just take a sharp knife and a bit of wood and start carving and see what happens. Then you're sort of open up to this trust again, I think, and trusting what is coming, what is around the bend is the essence of it. And it is scary, I know. There's a big fear on not knowing what will happen in an hour. People are crazy planners at the moment. Everybody needs to know at exactly the right time where they are next Tuesday, 10 to 2. It needs to be planned ahead, otherwise they get a panic attack. Crazy. And in practice they change the appointment like 3-4 times, and in the end it just happens when it happens. And I'm not against planning at all. Planning is a very helpful tool, but if we start using planning as a fear, I said fear controller to push down the fear, it's not a good thing. Then you're in trouble.
And you don't allow for that the delight, that innocent delight that comes from what you talked about with just the interaction with it. I'm imagining somebody just holding a lump of clay and feeling the textures and hearing the birds chirping and allowing, the motion of your muscles to kind of move the way that feels good, because it feels good when I do that. And then I feel like as children do, that becomes a playful place, a safe place and a playful place. And maybe the more that we do that, and unfortunately it's not taught in school, but the more that even as adults we do that, whether it's writing or whatever, there maybe is a rebirthing of play that comes too from that safety.
I was really struck by one of the videos on the Unfixed channel and on the YouTube channel. I can't remember which one it was, where everybody states it was about 6 years, 7 years, roughly, the point that fear started popping up. The problems began. I think it's the same point as where you stop being a child, playful, and stop trusting whatever happens is okay. Happen. And I think schooling plays a big role in sort of cutting that off. And it needs to be cut off, probably. I think from a newborn and a child growing up, at some point you need to sort of lose the trust and find it back again. But modern people lose the trust and never find it back again. And I think that it should be a sort of a short round of a few years, and that you sort of halfway your teenage years, you slowly gain that trust again. And somewhere end, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years, 10 years, you have a period that you lose that or get detached from this childish trust and this childish sort of belief in that things work out, into a new sort of adult or more adult trust in that you're able to participate in something that will work out. And we don't get that. It's taken from us, and it's kept from us after this point at school, and it's replaced by planning and certainty and linear stuff and answers.
It's like learning. It's like a musician learning the scales, but then never letting them go once they're there. It's just it's kind of where I was with music. It's like I learned all my scales, I did Suzuki, I did all that stuff, but I never went beyond. I just was like, okay, now I read the notes and now I play. And it's just, well, what a way to kill the creative spirit, like never want to play the piano again. But I would imagine, any true musician would say that's just the starting point. The rest is, oh man, you missed the meal. So, Bertus, okay. how can I help? How can we help you? And is there any way, anything you want readers to focus on, or how can we support you in your own Substack and in your endeavors in life?
All become subscribers, of course.
Yes.
What I find amazing is that so few people like respond in the sense of like has a bad name a bit from Facebook and from Instagram and stuff, but on Substack, liking a piece that you've read is a very good thing to do. I think I always
Mhm.
try to, even if I don't really like the piece or agree with it, I give a like because I read it. I
Yep.
got a bunch of the trouble of reading it. Please push that button, and it helps to be more in the picture, I think. And I love people who comment, who say something about it. And I always try to respond or try to give something back for that in some sense. But I don't know. I'm sort of I'm now 7 no 8 or 9 months I think on Substack. I
Hmm.
feel like I'm just beginning, just
Yeah,
getting
me
the hang of
too.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
I,
I
I
really love about Substack is it gives the possibility of being a writer, being a creative in a broader sense. Even you can do other things than writing on Substack and get paid for it. I
yeah.
got now 12 or 13 paying subscribers, and some of them
Wow.
really like like full. How do you say that? Like full members. I
Yeah.
find that amazing. I I can't believe it. And
Mhm.
it's not a full income, of course, but it does
Yeah.
greatly. It's yeah,
It's a way to feel validated in your creative expression. And it truly is. It's like that, whether it's a like or whether it's a comment or whether it's a paid subscription, all of that goes towards this validation of this other world that we're creating over here on Substack, where we're all misfits in a way, and in some way we belong together in our own little misfits community on Substack. So, and we find each other too. It's
yeah,
like we find each other. So I think also sharing like those pieces that you wrote on color just recently, the examination of color. Wow, that was just fabulous. Truly, I know I wrote it made me want to do cartwheels around the yard, and I just like I want to read them again and again to renew my appreciation and understanding of color. So for those who are listening, just read Bertus and share and partake in the joy of and innocence and wild imagination and intelligence of this beautiful man.
well, what else would I want? Like, wow, thank you. It was such a good talk. I loved it.
Yeah. Thank you, Burgess. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye.